Hello, and welcome to episode 2 of the Notion Rentals, Sales, and Labor CRM tutorial series. Today we'll be covering all the things relating to your inventory, that being the warehouse database, as well as your inventory databases and the damage log. What this video won't cover is adding new inventory. This is just going to be detailing how to manage your inventory, but adding to it will be in the purchase orders tutorial right after this one. So we created an order in the last video, but where did our inventory come from, and how do we track it once it leaves your possession? Further, what do we do to avoid renting out gear if it's damaged? These are all practical questions that an organized owner-operator needs to consider, and I have built a whole system to help with it. Starting with where our inventory comes from and how it works, we need to go to the inventory page from the home screen. You'll be greeted with a list of what's in your inventory, along with a few tabs up top and more databases to the left. The way the inventory is set up is with item headers and specific items. It's how we determine how many of what kinds of things we have in our inventory. In terms of something like the powerful lights, all pages in the item header database are just model names. Imagine if this said something specific like RA SkyPanel S60. That would be the model name, and we have 3 of them. When we added the powerful light to the order from before, we're calling from this page on this specific database, but this is just referencing the actual physical lights we have in storage, which can be found in the specific items database. Here you can see we have powerful lights 1, 2, and 3, which have their own statuses, ID numbers, and a property to show active damage. As you can see, small light 1 is currently damaged and would not appear as available from the item header database. We have 3 in inventory but 2 available, which can be seen in the corresponding item header. Let's go into the small light item header to take a look at one. Working our way down through the properties, we have the status of this item header, if it's active or a retired model, the category, so you can organize your inventory by type. Again, this might be something you want to edit yourself since I can't predict what your inventory is going to be. Then the unit price for this item, which is how we automatically populate the daily price of this item in the order database from before. Here it's a number property, and looking back at the orders database, we see that it rolled up into that number into the quoting tab to help with calculating your final price. But if you wanted to put in a specific number for a one-time price change, you can use the custom price property on the orders page, and the unit price will be overwritten. Anyway, back to item headers, we have our stock numbers and the amount we have available. Since we have 1 of 3 damaged, we only have 2 available, so stock being the total amount you have, and the amount available being what you actually can rent out to customers. Then we have the gross income from this item, which is a formula that will calculate all instances this item has been billed in the history of this item, so you know how much income that specific item has made you. Next, all the upcoming dates of any confirmed orders with this item, and the replacement cost of this item. This is actually a number property that you can edit, and is only here to get a general overview of the cost of this item. What a given item was actually purchased for will be in the specific items database, so we'll get onto that in a bit. Moving down, we have the manufacturer, which is auto-populated when you create a new item through the purchase order database. Sometimes this may not be the case though, like if you bought an item that's made by Ari, but you actually bought the item from B&H. Sometimes it would be good to go in here after you've made a new item header and change it to make it reflect the reality of the situation. Now, making a new item header through a PO will be its own video since it's a process like anything else, so for now, we'll keep moving on. The rest of these properties are really just admin stuff, and you can poke around here as much as you like. But moving to the body of the page, we have a linked view of the specific items database where we can see the actual items that we own and if there's anything damaged. Even further down is a linked view of the items build database that shows the schedule of this item, whether it's quoted, reserved, and if something was out, damaged, it would appear here. So that's the item header database, and let's look at the specific items database. The specific items database shows you all the individual items in your inventory. This is useful if you want to keep track of individual or serialized assets in your inventory, and all the relevant information is displayed here at a glance and grouped by the item header. Let's go in and give it a walkthrough. Looking at the specific item, the first property, the status property, is the most important property here. It will determine how many of these items you can rent out, and making sure this is up to date and reflecting the real world is very important. It's a formula that looks at tons of factors and basically determines if it's ready for rental or not. If it's anything other than available, it will be seen down the line all the way to the orders database. If it's not available, it won't be counted in the amount available property that we saw in the item header database, for example. And if it's retired, it won't even show up in the stock property from the items build database. So below that, we can see all the properties that help you know what's going on with this specific item. Properties to call out are the active damage and missing relations that connect this page to the damage log and the items build database respectively. If there's active damage, it will show up here, which changes the status to damaged. If the damage log was marked as retired, it will actually return a block of text that says retired from and the damage log that was connected to it last. Just good record keeping. As for the missing relation, it's related to the items build database and will be filled with a specific page from the order that was marked as missing. The status will be changed to missing up top, and should the item be found again and marked as returned, this item will be removed and the status will come back to available. Moving to the relations down here, item history will contain every instance of the items build database where this specific item was called. This essentially tracks every instance it goes out on a job. Damage history is similar, where once an item log is made, it gets attached to this item through this relation. Parts of kit is helpful if you want to add further detail to this item. For example, in my own use of this database, in the item Lightmap Spectrum 4 kit, it comes standard with all these pieces that I deem necessary to write down. That way, if someone were pulling this order and this item shows up in the warehouse database, they'll know that they should look for all these items before it goes out to the customer. The parts of kit relation is just a relation in this database right back to itself, and the other end of it is the parent item relation. If we go into one of these parts, we'll see that the parent item is the Lightmap spectrum itself. Finally, item header is obviously the model that this item is. Moving to the body of the page, we have the schedule of this item that will tell you where in the world this item is at the current moment. From that will be any pictures and further information you want to add for yourself. Okay, moving on. In the inventory page, there's a tab that says Item History that will show you all the items that are being billed for in each order that isn't checked in or canceled. That way, you know what sorts of items are being billed for by your company at one time. Going in the actual items build database itself, you'll see a list of every single thing being charged for by your company, whether it's an order or purchase order. Going through the tabs here, you have views for everything marked as missing, lost, damaged, and any items out with clients. Now I think it's time we go into Align and untangle the items build database. The items build database has ballooned to include 50 properties, each with its own purpose. I'm not going to go over every one in this video, as I think that would be excessive, but I have added notes explaining the purpose of each one I think needs explaining. But all I think you need to know is that as long as you use buttons to navigate and work through this workspace, everything should work fine. But the basic explanation of this database is just that it's how we charge clients, it's how we track the history of an item, and it will pull together all sorts of information you may need. Looking at a completed item here, like small light from the order Big Party, we can see that there was 2 small lights on this order, all pricing information, the quoted schedule of this item, the actual dates it was shipped and returned, any damage/missing information, accessories, and important relations that connect this database to almost all the others. Okay, with the explanations out of the way, let's actually work with these items in a real-world example. Moving to our order again, we can see that there is a relation to the warehouse database at the bottom of the properties. It would normally show up on our homepage, but this order isn't due until December, so it won't show up on our homepage until then. It will show up in the warehouse database itself though, so let's go there. In the warehouse database, we have a view showing the status of all the orders coming up. This isn't an order status, this is the warehouse status, which would reflect where the gear physically is. Not filled is for unapproved orders, or orders that have been approved but no action has been taken, just like the order we're using as an example. Filled is when all the gear is taken off the shelves and put on the floor. Shipped is when the gear is out of your hands and with the client. Return is when things are back with you, but maybe you still want to check the gear for damage or something before putting it back on the shelf. And complete is when everything is finished, back on the shelf, done and dusted. And lastly, you've got a few views here that'll help you organize your life. Alright, let's go into our example order. First thing I'm sure you've noticed by now is the name. Since this page gets created when you make your new reservation, there's no information to pull from to automatically populate this name property, so I just made the default something obvious so you'd rename it yourself. I typically just copy the name of the order into this name so we know that they're the same thing. To give the tour, from the top we have the status of this warehouse page, the dates that are written on the associated order, some admin properties, and the order and items in the warehouse itself at the bottom. In the body of the page, we have some status tools to click once you've filled, shipped, and returned, and completed everything. This is used to confirm that all of the statuses are true. All buttons down here will do is make the warehouse status partially filled or whatever, since you may be working in here for a while. When all the gear is finally filled or shipped or whatever, then you actually would press these buttons. Moving down the line, we have another view of the items build database, showing the availability of these items. We can only fill the items that have a status of available, even if we add specific items and click buttons. After all, we can't send the client something we don't have. So for now, we'll just fill what we can. Let's add the string lights, the stands, and the powerful light by adding in the specific items property here. Imagine you're in your warehouse or garage or wherever you are, and you pull string lights 1 and 2. You would notate that here. We're going to get all the stands in your inventory, but specifically we're going to grab powerful light 3, not 1 or 2. Let's click select all, and now that we have logged which items are going, we can click fill. You'll see that we chose small light 1 to fill the 2 that was requested, but that it has a damaged log attached to it, so we can't actually complete this line just yet. We're going to have to buy a new small light in the next video to complete this order, since let's just say small light won't be repaired in time. So we'll go over that in the purchase orders video, so for now, we will leave this as is. You'll notice the warehouse status now says partially filled. This is because we haven't filled the small light line, and we still haven't found a source for the truck yet, which we'll cover in the next video, so for now, we'll just ship what we can. Okay, everything has gone. Let's move to the out/return page where we'll handle the check-in process of this order. Let's say you pick through all the gear and you have a few problems. First of all, one of the string lights is missing. No worries, we'll just select that, click mark missing, and move on. Now let's say, unfortunately, one of the stands came back pretty busted but repairable, and the other is totally destroyed, unrecoverable. We're going to return the powerful light that came back no problem, and now we just have the stand line to worry about. We're going to select it and click mark damaged. It's going to give you a pop-up to make sure you want to continue, and we'll click yes. Okay, welcome to the damage log. To give you a tour of this, we have the ID number, the status of this page, the order it came from, the specific item we're talking about, the description of the damage, and a bunch of other admin properties. Let's say the damage stand was stand 2, and this one was truly destroyed beyond belief. It's amazing they even brought it back at all. Moving down to the bottom of the page, we'll see the items build database that shows the item we're talking about. If we were to go to that specific items database, we see that stand 2 is now marked as damaged, and in the item header database, the stock is still 4, but the amount available is only 3. We're going to retire this item, so we're going to click retire item. This is going to change the status of this page to retired, as well as retire the specific item. Now, quick note, if you wanted to retire this specific item another way, you could just click retire here in the properties without going through with this whole damage process, but then you wouldn't have good record keeping. Okay, let's move on to the other stand. We'll go back to the warehouse page, navigate to the missing damage page, and do this process again, although this time, we'll fast forward to a few days later, and we get it back from the shop fixed up and good as new. So we'll go to dollar total and say it cost them $200 to fix it. We'll write that down and then click repair item. It will check the specific item back into inventory with this damage log forever marked as a part of its history. Okay, last thing. We want to say that only one of the string lights is missing, so we're going to go to active missing and make sure only string light 1 is missing, since in our make-believe world, that is what's happening. Okay, let's fast forward to a few days later where the customer comes back saying that he found his missing item. Great! Let's select this guy and we will mark return missing. Okay, now that we got that out of the way, let's go and check in items to free them up in the system for future rentals. At this point, we would click the make complete, but we still have the truck and the small light to worry about, so we'll actually leave it as returned. The last thing I'll leave you with is how to handle lost items. Let's say the string lights never came back and the client was like, sorry, can't find it. We'll have to handle that through the orders page. In the orders page, you notice there's a lot more populated now to tell one heck of a story. So in order to make the missing items lost, you just click the Make Missing Items Lost button to make it lost. Now, if we were to go to the specific item marked as active missing, it will now show as lost. Now, if you ever need to bring back a lost or missing item from the abyss, you can just select the line here and click the Check in Selected Missing/Lost button and return it back to your shelf. Okay, so that's all for this video. There are a few missing things here, like how to add new inventory or how to bill for damaged/missing items, but that'll all be covered in the next video. So for now, I'm going to leave it there. Take care, and have a good one.